Good morning. On behalf of the Harris family, I'm glad to welcome all of you here today as we gather to remember and celebrate Kurt Harris. Thank you for being part of this today. And I do want you to know that immediately following the service, you're invited into the fellowship hall for a dinner and Kurt's favorite cookies. So make special note of the cookies because, as I understand, this was serious business. So you don't want to pass by on the cookies. And as I just want you to know, First Congregational Church is a place of welcome for all people from all traditions or no traditions. We want all of you to know that whoever you are and wherever you are on your faith and life journey, you're welcome here.
So I'm John Rice, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to both a sad occasion and a great occasion to celebrate a fine life. This is a relatively brief service in honor of a very unusual man. The family is over here to my left, and after the service we'll congregate for cookies. Why we're not doing that now is a mystery, but we'll. So that said, Leslie Adler, will you please come up and lead us?
On the Death of the Beloved by John Oliver. Though we need to weep your loss, you dwell in that safe place in our hearts where no storm or night or pain can reach you. Your love was like the dawn brightening over our lives, awakening beneath the dark a further adventure of color. The sound of your voice found for us a new music that brightened everything. Whatever you enfolded in your gaze quickened in the joy of its being. You placed smiles like flowers on the altar of the heart. Your mind always sparkled with wonder at things. Though your days here were brief, your spirit was alive, awake, complete. We looked toward each other no longer from the old distance of our names. Now you dwell inside the rhythm of breath, as close to us as we are to ourselves. Though we cannot see you with outward eyes, we know our soul's gaze is upon your face, smiling back at us from within everything to which we bring our best refinement. Let us not look for you only in memory, where we would grow lonely without you. You would want us to find you in presence, beside us when beauty brightens, when kindness glows, and music echoes eternal tones. When orchids brighten the earth, darkest winter has turned to spring. May this dark grief flowing with hope in every heart that loves you. May you continue to inspire us to enter each day with a generous heart, to serve the call of courage and love, until we see your beautiful face again in that land where there is no more separation, where all tears will be wiped from our mind, and where we will never lose you again.
So it is my task to give a eulogy for my friend Kurt. And we were guy friends. We were very close, but we were guy friends. So I want to walk you through a man's wonderful life as I learned it from him. And it's probably incomplete and wrong in many ways because I didn't hear it right or whatever. But it will give you a sense and the flavor of an interesting journey of a man with a wonderfully gifted mind who grew also into a man of very fine and high character. The boy who was born with that fine mind was born in the Deep South, 8 months after the United States had entered World War II. This also was a time when the Great Depression, though easing, still held the rural South in its grip of poverty and hardship. Kurt, as a young boy, learned to work with the crops, cherish a pet dog nobody else liked, attend country schools that had low expectations of its students. He bore witness to the Jim Crow South. At its height, after it had successfully repudiated the outcome of the Civil War and the resulting suppression of American black people, he coped with this toxic social complexity that surrounded his youth. And yet the uncompromising, unpromising world into which Kurt and his siblings was born was about to go through a breathtaking, rapid transformation as America at war was suddenly a country with jobs, spirit, and possibilities for those agile enough to move towards them and seize the moment. In the first 30 years of Kurt's life, our nation won World War II, fought in Korea, launched countless returning soldiers into GI-funded educations. We boomed economically into the 1950s and 60s and saw the monumental civil rights legislation of '64. The world into which he had been born was going through dramatic change, sometimes reluctantly. So I admit that that I sort of relish walking us back to the culture and the moment and the context in which Kurt was born and grew up, because I am so fascinated by the story of how Kurt grew himself into the unusual man I was privileged to have known, a man to have worked with and to work for, to have shared interest in books and history in the 20th century, any number of technologies from computer design and capabilities and software foibles and fax capabilities, the potential of quantum physics, et cetera, et cetera. How did he get here from there was always the thing I was asking myself. He was an interested little boy who grew into an always interested and thus interesting man. His sense of apartness, he told me that he felt as a child, had some hardship to it, and two, it empowered him to discover himself without being ruled by others' definitions or expectations. He loved to read. He discovered in himself a gift for mathematics. His deep curiosity set him on a lifelong pattern to try to understand the inner workings of ideas and things that interested him. His gifts and interests reinforced his apartness, even as he also found friendship on the fringes. He did not describe himself as a driven child. It really sounded to me as if he naturally trusted himself and followed his own good self down a path of many things that interested him. Kurt described what I would call his breakout and what he called simply his move into the world of higher education. He ascribed this to Russia's 1957 launch of Sputnik, a satellite. The United States was completely shocked by this tiny little 180-pound thing circling the globe, and God, what does this mean to us? And we have a missile crisis, and we have a space crisis. And so, amidst this shock, suddenly science and education became a big deal in America with a lot of focus. Kurt was 15 when this occurred, and his interest in math and how things worked were drawn into the gravity of the available courses and advisors' encouragement on this educational path. And about 6 years later, he graduated from the University of Tennessee with a degree in mathematics. and he stepped into the roiling 1960s. The Vietnam War was peaking. The draft was calling up his age group. He joined the Air Force, and his evolution into a talented techie took flight. He married and had a daughter. The marriage did not endure. He was recruited to work at GE and for its CIA customer. He worked with a team of very bright, very sophisticated, talented engineers and academics. And his wonderful, curious mind thrived in this setting. He belonged. He belonged with such other minds and conceived at that time of a computer design that was so advanced that it took 30 years before technology caught up with Kurt and his concept could actually technically be built. The heart of the man bearing the wonderful mind also grew. He was an adult who knew how to give love and how to accept love. When fate brought Kurt and Marcia together, they married and thrived. Kurt became a New Mexican. It was a long journey. They built a family, adopting and deeply cherishing Craig, Margaret, and Teddy. Though Kurt was justifiably proud of what he had been learning and doing in his profession, his children and Marcia were who and what made Kurt most proud of the life he had lived and the journey that he was traveling. Being a father in those times, Kurt was ever more sensitive to our national politics and values and thoughtful about the solutions. Meanwhile, at Los Alamos Labs, he was amused and then alarmed when his gift for technology problems and their solutions enabled him to devise a tight, clean, low-cost software solution, only to see the program manager overrule Kurt's $10,000 cost solution with a $12 million purchase of a tool that never did work. Arrived in the 21st century, Kurt patented the Harris architecture, successfully licensed it to a major silicon chip manufacturer, and collected significant license fees. Though the chip manufacturer cut off in fully developing the Harris architecture due to a drastic recession, they did prove that it works. So when the Harris architecture soon comes off patent, it is my prediction that it will come to market. And so I want you to remember the term, the Harris architecture, coming soon to a space near you. What he did was create an architecture that enables the processing of huge amounts of data. Oh, that's relevant today, isn't it? So as his younger children grew up and learned new things, so Kurt's mind quested into realms of human nature and bioscience as it might relate to computing. He was extremely interested in how the human brain worked and how it would and would not inform computer chip design and architecture. He had to simplify his findings in this area for me because the complexity of the chemical, electrical wonder that is the human brain was comprehensible to him, but not me. He worried about the deepening caverns dividing America in opposing cultures, and he read deeply into the causes and possibility. He showed amusing passing glimpses once in a while of that little boy he had been with a twinkle in his eyes and a quick small grin. As work on the Harris architecture languished at the new licensing company, Kurt turned his mind further to new directions. He took a course in memoir writing and wrote vignettes of his early childhood. He turned to poetry from a moving, heartbreaking look back into the rural South to a skewering of a current Supreme Court justice. In his final iteration, Kurt worked at and described himself not as a technologist, but as a writer. The three-part historical novel that he was crafting mostly did not get into the computer, but it kept forming in his restless, creative mind. He entertained several of us telling the stories as the books developed, and now we can't have them. It didn't get into a computer. 2 hours before he died, I read, Kurt, a just published article describing how, after over 100 years of debate, Einstein's theory of gravitational waves were proven to be correct. I read it to him because I knew that would interest Kurt. Remember Kurt Harris. Leslie Alter, come back to us.
Heavy by Mary Oliver, one of Kurt's favorite poets. That time I thought I could not go any closer to grief without dying. I went closer, and I did not die. Surely God had his hand in this, as well as friends. Still, I was bent, and my laughter, as the poet said, was nowhere to be found. Then said my friend Daniel, brave even among lions, "It's not the weight you carry, but how you carry it. Books, bricks, grief, it's all in the way you embrace it, balance it, carry it, when you cannot and would not put it down." So I went practicing. Have you noticed? Have you heard the laughter that comes now and again out of my startled mouth? How I linger to admire the things of this world that are kind and maybe also troubled. Roses in the wind, the sea geese on steep waves, a love to which there is no reply.
Amber, come and take us to cookies. Oh, my sevens, I'm sorry. So, you have heard one man's memories of Kurt, and now it is time for you to come up and share yours. Come on down.
Hi, everybody. This is my daughter, Natalie. So before I get started, Natalie wanted to show you all what she drew for her papa. Want to show everybody? You can just hold it up. So she drew that, and you want to say something? No? Well, she just wanted me to show you that. So it's nice to see everybody here today. We really appreciate you coming on behalf of our family. I've seen a lot of friendly faces that I haven't seen in a long time. And for those of you that don't know, my name's Craig, and I'm Kurt's oldest and favorite son. And I live in Buffalo, New York. Go Bills. So for as long as I can remember, I used to brag to my friends that my dad was a math major at the University of Tennessee, a computer systems engineer that worked for the DIA and Los Alamos Labs, who then retired and decided to start his own business and designed a computer processing microchip that was going to change machine learning and AI as we know it. And being 100% honest, to this day, I still have no clue what that thing does. And most of the time, it was just a flex to my friends. As many of you know, Kurt used to love writing poems and short stories. And I was talking with my mom the other day, and she mentioned that at one point he had stopped identifying himself and introducing himself to people as a systems engineer, but rather as a writer, just like John had mentioned, something that he was deeply passionate about in these last few years. As such, I thought it would be appropriate to write something for him, and I decided that writing a letter to him might be interesting and kind of a different approach. So here it is. This is a letter that I wrote for Kurt. So, dear Dad, I don't know where or what I would have been in life if it weren't for you and Mom. I often think about how my life could have turned out had I not been adopted. I know two other individuals, Meg and Ted, who feel the same way, and I can speak for the three of us when I say you actually in fact, changed the course of our lives the day that we came home from India. Our homecomings, May 29th, June 8th, and October 5th, mean so much more to me than actual birthdays because each one of these dates signified the growth of our family. Although DNA tests may not prove that you are actual physical birth parents, none of that really matters to me, to Meg, Ted, or myself. And you and Mom are the only parents that we will ever know and love eternally. Through an almost unbelievable sequence of life events, being born in India, raised in New Mexico, and conned by Teresa after college to reside, start a family, and work in Buffalo. And yes, it's cold. I hate the snow. And chicken wings are the best in the world. I am the man, father, and person I am today because of your influence. Thank you for teaching me some of the most valuable life lessons and skills that I may not have known at the time I was learning, but everything is always more clear in hindsight. As I think about our time together, there are 3 important lessons that I will never forget. Number 1, it's not about the meaning of the words you use, but the meaning behind them that is more important. You were always a man of few words, but your writing spoke volumes, and your eyes could say more in a conversation, regardless if you said 10 words or 100. Reese always says that you had the kindest eyes that expressed more than any words could say. We always knew when you were joking or being sarcastic, usually at my expense, by the look in your eyes, and that's something that I'll never forget. Number 2, how to be supportive. So I'm pretty sure that Mom, Meg, and Ted remember the afternoons and late evenings in high school when you and I would sit at the kitchen table and you would try everything under the sun to help me with my algebra, geometry, and any type of math-related homework. At that time in my life, mathematics was my absolute arch enemy, and who better than you, a computer systems engineer and mathematics college major, to assist me with my homework. 97% of the time, I fought you to the bitter end of each math problem, just trying to get to the answer without actually trying to focus on the process and how to comprehend how to get to it. I spent more time trying to think of ways on how to cheat on exams than actually learn the material. I remember we would be up so late some nights, and no matter how hard I wanted to quit, you were always there, trying to think of a different and more creative approach to help me understand the material. I'm sure you were frustrated at times, but you never showed it, and I always emphasized the importance of working through the problem until you find the solution, which I can see now, became a life lesson that I've applied as an adult to try to teach my girls. Rest assured that the amount of time, effort, energy, love, and support that you put into our family has most certainly carried over into the way that I'm raising my family. Side note, too, on that. Kurt used to emphasize the importance of learning and comprehending mathematics because he would always say that I would use it every day after I graduated and got into the real world. And just for the record, I am going to be 37 years old next week and have not used Algebra 2 or the Pythagorean theorem once in my adult life. So maybe we could have skipped those years. Number 3, the golden rule. Treat people like you want to be treated. Work hard, be patient, and stay humble. I remember asking you for words of advice, and you always referred back to this golden rule and always reassured me that everything was going to work itself out in the end, even if you couldn't see an immediate solution. It seems like lately everything is overwhelming, complicated, and exhausting. However, the importance of slowing down and not blowing things out of proportion and finding a solution is often overlooked. I think I'm working on getting better at this. Thank you for giving me the opportunities that I may have never had. Thank you for being the foundation to my own fatherhood. And thank you and Mom for teaching me to view people by character and celebrate our differences as well as our similarities. Myself, Reese, Natalie, And Julie, I love and miss you so much. Physical distance does play a part in these relationships. And although we didn't get to see you every day, the girls loved seeing you on FaceTime, and they lit up when they got to see you in person. We are so glad that you are not in pain anymore, and the void we feel with you gone will never be replaced. Even though it's stormy now, we know that it doesn't rain forever. Love you.
Hi, I'm Ted. I'm Kurt's second born, and contrary to what Craig says, I'm the favorite. Like John and Craig had said, my dad had started writing poetry in his later life. So with some help from a work friend that was great enough to help me, I wrote a poem for him. Waking up today, knowing it will be my final goodbye, trying so hard to hold my tears back, trying not to cry. Never could I imagine losing you, a piece of my heart. All I have are our memories. Where do I start? I miss hearing you sing "Oh Danny Boy" throughout childhood nights, remembering the mural you helped us paint with us in India. My dad was so smart, maybe a little before his time. I remember when we invented a creation no one understood, but we did it because my dad helped me. We don't always know our who, when, what, and whys, but you showed me to live every day to the fullest. We never know when our goodbye will be the final goodbye.
I'm short, so I have to stand on something. So I didn't know what I was going to write, so I decided on my 3 favorite memories with my dad. So my first favorite memory was we would always go on errands together, and that was my favorite thing I liked to do with my dad. My second favorite memory was when I used to work late. He'd always be up in the kitchen, so we'd always share a bowl of ice cream. It had to be the vanilla bean ice cream, or it wasn't the right ice cream, and then we'd always have the chocolate sauce with it. And then my last favorite memory was when I was little, he'd always come in at night, sing me to sleep. He'd always sing me the "Oh Danny Boy" song, "I know an old lady who swallowed a fly," and "You Are My Sunshine." I will miss my dad very much and the fun times we had together, and I will cherish all the memories and wonderful times I had with him. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up and share memories?
I just wanted to share a memory that a lot of you people don't know about Kurt. I was his best man, and I was Marcia's roommate at Scripps. And the day they got married, it was a lot of fun. Judge Ryan and Marcia's dad were there sort of having a few before the ceremony, and we stood there, you know, and I was next to Kurt. I did wear a pantsuit, but it was lovely lemon yellow. And Judge Ryan kept saying, "No, you need to stand over there, and you need to stand over there," saying that, you know, waiting for the bride on that side. And I finally looked at him and said, "Judge, I'm the best man." And he went, "Oh." But I just wanted to remark that, you know, sometimes I've talked about this a lot recently, how when your dear friends that are so essential to your being meet somebody and you just are sort of like, and when Marcia met Kurt, it was wonderful. As I said to her kids, she was just gaga, and I thought, oh, this I need to pay attention to this. And I was so lucky because not only did she find a man that was so well suited to her, and there was this, it really was, they found the love of their lives. But it wasn't just that it was wonderful for me that I had a dear friend who I did not lose to a bad marriage, but I found an amazing, amazing friend.
Hi, I'm Lori, and I have a memory like Meg, kind of. There was a lot I admired about Kurt. He was so well-read. But for many years, we have had Thanksgiving with them. And Kurt makes a mean mincemeat. And a lot of people don't like mincemeat. This was the real stuff with the tongue and everything in it. But when Kurt found out that I liked mincemeat, every time he made mincemeat after that, he always made me a jar. And I think that just speaks to his kind heart.
Now, don't be nervous. It's an open mic. Would anyone else like to come up and share memories? Amber, please come.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amber. I'm Kurt's bonus daughter, due to Margaret. I will be reading the prayer of St. Francis. We think this describes the way he tried to live his life. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
So Kurt was a fine man and led a good life and now wants you to go have a good cookie.